Thank you for joining us for the Conform to Christ podcast, where we seek to engage the mind, affect the heart, and call people to follow Christ. My name is George Mace, and here I am with Jay Jones.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going all right. How you doing?
Not bad.
That didn't sound too exciting.
Look at this in 4K.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this, George.
Yeah,
I aged like an entire year the past 2 weeks.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and nothing even happened.
Yeah,
Nothing even happened at all. Well, yeah, that's how it is. That's how it is sometimes. You know, getting old, I guess. Old with young kids.
it's it does get a little rough at times. Yeah,
You know,
it gets rough.
Just doing our part. Just doing our part.
Yeah.
To populate the earth. You know, just trying to contribute to as many greenhouse gases as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to prevent an ice age.
Good, I guess.
Really.
There you go.
Yeah. So, well, George, you feeling better today? Huh?
Am I feeling better today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm
Okay.
feeling all right.
All right. Good.
It's this weather, man. Got really cold and dreary, and I don't like it.
I'm impervious to cold weather.
Is it your Viking?
It's
Viking blood?
see, like I am micro evolved to face the cold. How do I know? Because I go duck hunting sometimes, and I've been duck hunting when it's around 0 degrees.
Oh yeah. When's the last time you went duck hunting?
And I'm not even phased.
Have you even been since we merged?
Oh yeah, I've been.
Really?
Kids' activities, take priority. I can't just be going out duck hunting when the kids got stuff going on. So
Right.
yeah, you see this tiny nose? People like to make fun of the tiny nose, but nobody's laughing when it's about 5 degrees outside, and I'm not cold, and everybody else is like, "Oh, I need a face cover." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's benefits. You hate the cold, and I thrive in the cold.
Oh, I hate it.
We are a regular yin yang podcast, huh?
Yeah. We're the odd couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have a sense of humor to the super reformed that I said yin yang. Unsubscribe. the truly reformed unsubscribe.
Yeah.
See ya.
Next, we'll be talking about Christmas. I don't know.
Oh no, George. George, we need to bring it back in. We need to This isn't Free for All Friday.
No, it's not. Man, I'm trying to I'm trying to find this picture that I can pull up on my phone, and I cannot pull it up on my iPad.
Do you send it to me? Just send it to Twitter for me.
Okay.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
Okay.
And maybe I can show it.
Okay. Try that.
Let's see here. Hang on a second.
I don't know what the problem is here.
Okay, go over to my screen.
My technical difficulties.
Yeah, go to my screen. Yeah, my screen. Click it. There you go.
There we go. That was apparently at Prestonwood.
What? Where's Prestonwood? What is that?
Down in Texas. It's the church that had the drummers.
Oh yeah, the flying drummers.
The flying drummers.
This is part of it.
Showed. Yeah.
Look at that.
That's what I read is that it's at Prestonwood.
That's crazy.
I haven't been able to verify it.
Did a couple people get married too?
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on down there.
Such a hotspot. They got fireworks going on inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. And Santa Claus up there. That won't be confusing for any kids
Right.
at all.
Right.
Santa Claus in church.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in this picture. I'm trying to figure it all out. Yeah. Anyway, I thought
that's nuts, dude.
I thought that you would enjoy seeing that.
How far will it go? How far can they take it?
So I found this on Twitter. I don't know why I can't pull it up on my Twitter app on my iPad, but the comments are not
They're not good.
they're not great.
Mm.
Yeah, people like, well, if it's for evangelism,
George,
why not have Santa Claus flying over everyone's head?
Santa Claus is up there. It's about a week away. Do you tell your kids about Santa Claus or no?
We talk about the historical Nicholas,
Okay, Saint Nicholas,
and talk about the Council of Nicaea and
right.
him giving the old right hook to Arius. That's the Santa Claus that I like.
Yeah. How about just have they absorbed it from the culture, like thinking there was a Santa Claus?
We used to do it with Roland, firstborn, still trying to figure things out, and we still were trying to figure some of our theology out.
And all the truly reformed just now unsubscribed because you're unqualified.
Right. But I don't know. He wasn't too old before
You're like, nah.
This is just make believe.
Yeah.
And we haven't really done it with any of the other kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We never told any of our kids about Santa Claus, but inevitably they'll absorb it from the culture. It's an impossibility. Do you have a TV in your house? Well, no, do people even watch TV anymore? They used to, not so much anymore nowadays, but commercials, go to the movies, go to the movies.
What are you talking about?
Previews, there's Santa Claus.
Do people watch TV anymore?
Do they?
What are you talking about?
I mean, like regular TV.
Oh, yeah. People still.
Do they still have that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. Like everything's TV apps now. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even like real commercials anymore.
Yeah.
Super Bowl, like you name it, like whatever. Culture, it's out there.
Yeah.
Go to the store, Santa Claus imagery everywhere. So
Yeah.
Drake, we never told him about it, but one day we're in the living room. I think he was 3.5, maybe 3.5. What? After I got back from Iraq, he's like, "Dad, I don't think Santa Claus is real." Like, now, okay, you have to remember, like, I'm not exaggerating because he had like an insanely large vocabulary for a small child. It was almost creepy.
Yeah,
we talk to a little kid like that. I'm like, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, we don't have a chimney." Like the logic was strong. Like, yeah, you're right. We your parents gave you all that stuff. God's blessed us, and so we can bless you guys.
Yeah.
So had to have a serious combo with Evangeline though.
Yeah.
Because she's very imaginative. So she's making scribble scrabbles on a piece of paper. So what are you doing? She said, "Oh, I'm making a thank you card for Santa Claus." I said, "Santa Claus?" So what are you talking about? She said, "Yeah, I know he's Yule." She can't say it. "I know he's Yule." I said, "Oh, yeah, what's that?" She said, "Well, I saw an elf the other day." I said, "You did?" She said, "No, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I saw a real elf."
Okay.
A person who was dressed up like an elf. So she concludes, then Santa's real.
Okay.
I said, "All right, I just got to tell you something. All right." You see all those we already there's already presents out. Do y'all do that? We got presents out under the tree.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll put some more out the night of, but we'll put some out.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You see all those presents? Like your mommy and daddy got all that, but that came because God gave us everything we have, so now we give to you." So then she came later. That note was torn in half and had all these scribbles on it. I said, "What's this?" She said, "It's a thank you note." And then she took the other half that she had torn in half to her mom. So, yeah. And now all of the non-reformed unsubscribed for
How dare you, Jay Jones?
running Santa Claus.
How dare you? Yeah.
Subscriber purge.
Yeah.
Well, should we jump into this or no?
Well, I wanted to.
What do we think?
I'll leave this. I'll leave this for next time. But I did want to. I wanted to show you my shirt that I got.
Okay, what you got? Don't be daft.
Don't be daft. Yeah. I tutor some kids, some homeschool kids, and one of the mothers, who is also a member of our church,
Okay.
had these shirts made for the entire class,
All right.
and I thought that was a nice gesture. I like walking around with a shirt that says "Don't be daft."
Okay. You tutor English?
I feel like maybe I should have saved this for a free for all, because that's when we are at our
Yeah.
yeah daftiness.
Well, sometimes here as well. People are like, we're 10 minutes in, guys. I came here for Text Driven Tuesday.
Oh boy, Jay, what a sermon!
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had all kinds of discussions in our community group
Did you?
yesterday. Oh yeah.
Hopefully it was good.
Yeah.
Hopefully good discussions.
Yeah, it was a great discussion. Had some questions, and I could, as we were talking, I was thinking this could be a long one. This could be a long one.
It could be a long one. It could be. Yeah. It probably could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it started out. For those who didn't listen to the sermon, I'm in Ecclesiastes 8. It was going to do the whole chapter all in one sitting. This is really kind of one unit.
Mm-hmm.
And how you can see that it's a unit is it begins with who is like the wise and who knows, right? That's one bracket.
Yeah.
The last part of the bracket is about the wise not knowing and not finding something out.
Mm.
And so this section is about really the benefits, uses, and limitations of wisdom. There's 5 ways really that you can apply wisdom. Like there's kind of 5 spheres he brings up in this.
Yeah.
It's about being happy. So that's how he starts. Like who's like the wise? Nobody. Nobody's like the wise. The wise are wise, right? He wants you to be that way. Who knows an interpretation of a thing? That is, who can apply wisdom? It makes a man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the hardness of his face is changed. So wisdom is good and beneficial. It can help you to live a happy life in a fallen world. And there are 5 ways he applies it. And so I was like, all right, well, perfect, 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start to looking at the first point, and I'm like, the first sphere is about government and the king.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, George, what do you think, man? Should I do? And you were like, why not break them off and do 5 sermons? Why not do it? So
it's my Christmas gift to you, Jay.
my Christmas. So I went ahead and did it. Huh? I don't need much encouragement for that.
Right.
So I went ahead and
you blame me for everything. You blame me for preaching the book of Ecclesiastes.
it really is your fault. I feel like you're like, what can I tempt Jay with
Mm-hmm.
that I know he's not going to be able to resist?
Yeah.
How about Ecclesiastes?
You make it.
You like whisper.
You make it really easy. Though.
You like whispered in my ear. I think I was taking a nap, and you probably whispered in my ear. Do Ecclesiastes.
Right.
I woke up and I was like,
it was an.
You know what?
It was an inception.
Yeah, I think I'll take on Ecclesiastes. So yeah, here we are.
You're welcome, Jay.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, no one left during the sermon. I consider that a win.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Well, maybe it's not a win. Maybe I didn't preach good enough. Because sometimes I have had people leave during the middle of my sermon,
Mm-hmm.
and I consider that a win as well.
Yeah.
Like not our church members, obviously, but you know, a guy comes in off the street. If you just preach the Bible and people get mad, I consider that a win.
Yeah.
So nobody left, so maybe it wasn't a win. What do you think?
I don't know.
Nobody threw anything at me either. So there was something here to offend everyone. I feel like.
Were you wanting someone to throw something?
No,
at you?
I just
you
feel
want
like
someone to fling a dead cat at you.
Maybe I would. That would be like if someone slings a dead cat at you. That means you're in the preaching hall of fame.
Is that like the reform bucket list?
Yeah.
I was like, all right, have a dead cat thrown at me, get chased out of town, threatened with being burned at the stake.
Yeah. Well, if we just wait a little while, that one might come easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, 5 applications of wisdom to make your face shine with happiness. That's what's coming over the next 5 times.
Okay.
This one is wisdom applied.
And we're going to have to split that up.
Yeah, we are.
Because of Christmas.
Yeah, we are. so we'll only get 2 in.
Mm.
But it's okay. They kind of, if we're going to break in the middle, these are fine.
Yeah.
Because you can take them individually. So
Mhm.
this one today, wisdom applied with respects. Wisdom applied respects the authority of the king. So you want to be happy, have a proper view of and respect for government.
Okay. And we had some good discussion about government as you were working on this. So we'll I plan on raising some issues to talk about, Jay.
Okay.
So
Well, let's do it.
okay. All right.
I don't claim to have all the answers. But
You don't have to tell me, Jay. All right. 4 guiding principles to how wisdom applies to government. So let's have you read. This is verses 1 through 6. Let's have you read verses 1 through 6 of Ecclesiastes 8, and then we'll jump in.
So obviously there are more than 4 probably you can get from the Bible. But
yeah, right.
The idea is I'm going through Ecclesiastes. I've never preached on government before, ever.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
When you told me that, I was a little surprised. I thought that for sure you would have taken some time to do that.
I don't just jump off into topics. I have 2 things I have jumped off on. I've done probably a couple on just the issue of abortion.
Mm-hmm.
I did one when they did the Obergefell decision.
Yeah,
I did one
that.
specifically on the issue of homosexuality and marriage,
Mm-hmm.
but those were not government sermons broadly. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of more focused on the issue,
right?
Ethics and morality of these issues.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time I've come in a text to specifically about government. So,
which I think is interesting in itself, because you listen to a lot of preachers nowadays, and they talk about government a lot.
Yeah.
And so for you to have never covered it until now, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it comes up, right?
It comes up. Yeah, you gotta deal with it.
When you get to it, you can't skip it, right? You
Yeah.
preach it. I remember when I first came to Northwest that I preached through Malachi and 1 Corinthians, and I preached on divorce.
Okay.
Like 3 or 4 times in like the first year.
Yeah.
And it was.
There you go. It's right there. You got to do it.
It's there in the.
It just keeps coming up.
I told the people, I was like, it's not like I'm
picking it,
wanting to preach on divorce.
Right.
But here we are.
Right.
So, so you gotta deal with the topic when it comes up. So let's have you read it, and then we'll talk about it.
There we go. I'll stop probably at verse 6, halfway through verse 6. Yeah, I'll go through verse 6. Okay. Who is like the wise, and who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the hardness of his face is changed. I say, keep the king's command because of God's oath to him. Be not hasty to go from his presence. Do not take your stand in an evil cause, for he does whatever he pleases. For the word of the king is supreme, and who may say to him, what are you doing? Whoever keeps a command will know no evil thing, and the wise heart will know the proper time and the just way. For there is a time and a way for everything, although man's troubles lies heavy on him. There you go.
Okay. All right.
Switch it over, please.
4 guiding principles.
Hey.
We could just follow your.
We lost the camera guy. It's my dad. My dad's filling in for Larry.
Yeah.
We should have got you a microphone. Larry won't talk in the microphone, but I bet we could get the original.
Yeah.
The original Jerry Jones. I'm like Kraft brand. That's the original back there. I bet he would talk.
Yeah.
And if my grandpa, remember I interviewed my grandpa?
Yeah.
Oh man, we could have done a free for all Friday with my grandpa. We'll put 4 microphones in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'd probably get banned from the internet for all time. What do you think? Do you think so? There's no telling.
There's some really bad stuff out there. I think we would get. Twitter for 4 days. I'm about.
We got.
I saw you. Hey, my dad. Yeah, my dad got a Twitter account. He's over here. He's over here trying to argue with Joe Biden. Like that. He's not. He's not going to check that.
Yeah, that's right.
He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what year it is. Somebody else tweeted that for him.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to mic up your dad over here.
Oh. So yeah, wisdom.
So
wisdom applied.
after all this time, your dad got a Twitter account.
He did. Yeah, he got one on there.
After all the warnings that we,
I know. Oh man.
yeah. All right. Well,
I learned some new acronyms I never heard of.
Yeah.
don't get a Twitter account. All right. So four guiding principles. Four guiding principles to how wisdom applies to government. And Christians need this because we're notoriously bad when it comes to talking about government. All right.
I think American Christians are,
Well, the way that I feel like we're going to jump around.
Right.
Should we just give the 4 points and then just talk?
Sure.
How do we want to do this?
Yeah, we can do that. All right. So
because I feel like we're just gonna gonna bounce
here they
around.
are. They're very easy.
Yeah. Okay.
From Ecclesiastes, like I said, you can get others. Go elsewhere in the Bible. You could establish more principles, but here's some that just from Ecclesiastes. Now, keep in mind the context is a king in the Middle East.
Right.
Now we'll have to do a little work to cross cultural gaps into governments through history, and then in particular to our government, our system. But they still apply. Number one is be a law-abiding citizen. Number two, do not be quick to show public disapproval. Number three, be warned of the danger of working against the king. 4, be discerning when opposing the king. That is, pick your battles wisely,
right,
and in a way that will get the effect you're looking for. So be a law-abiding citizen, be not quick to show public approval, be warned of the danger of working against the king, be discerning when opposing the king. There they are. There's the 4.
Going back to what you said, I do think that the way that we talk about government is unique in America.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that cultural gap that we have to bridge.
Right.
This is dealing specifically with a king who has ultimate authority.
Yes.
I mean, Solomon could do whatever Solomon wanted, right?
Yeah.
But
as was the case for the majority of world history,
right?
Honestly,
right. We're in a unique system that for millennia was unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Greece and Rome a little bit.
For a time, there's a little bit of an anomaly.
They had some. I mean, the Roman Republic.
Yeah, but
they
even
had
that,
senators.
but
the people would vote. Right.
But they don't have a say after the vote,
right?
Anymore.
Right.
You have the senatorial class, which is about 4 levels above a regular plebe. A regular peasant. So you really have a lot of input on what happens after that vote.
Right.
And then that didn't last that long either, because then Caesar took over, became a dictator.
Yeah.
Became king.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So we see a little bit of it, but until America was founded, it wasn't a government that was by the people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So we do have to make that gap. But I think we also need to, as Americans, we need to understand that. We need to understand the unique place in history in which we live, and the uniqueness of our government, and not insert American democracy into the Bible.
Right.
Like, we need to understand that the type of government that is seen in the Bible is a monarchy.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it will be. I think originally God's plan was monarchy. Adam as king.
Right.
With the potential to live forever. I think people forget this. Okay. If Adam lives forever, he will be king of the earth.
Right.
There'll be a ton of descendants come from him, but he's the first, and he's the representative of all mankind. He has to take dominion over the earth. Like, he's the man.
Right.
And but he falls. So then comes the second Adam.
Mm.
Oh, interesting. I wonder what that could mean. So a variety of things, one of which is that I think God's plan for material creation
Mm.
is eventually the unseen realm merges into the new creation,
Mm.
is God with man, Christ as king, a
Mhm.
human king,
Right.
because he's a human being
Mhm.
forever.
Yeah.
In a perfect world.
The prophecy of Isaiah chapter 9 is that the government will be on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not an abolition, abolishing of
Right.
of government,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's God's government,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the problem that shows up in 1 Samuel.
Right.
People struggle with that. What exactly is going on? Israel asked for a king. Samuel's upset.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to God. Was it wrong for them to have a king? There's debate
Right.
over that.
Right.
I think the key to that is they want a king like the nations,
Right.
right?
They
Who
want
will-
a king
who will
that-
go out and fight their battles
They
for
want-
them.
Yeah, they want someone they can see. So they can see the power pooled in a location where they had the king. They had a king, and they were not living in submission to him,
Mm.
and that's why the chaos.
Well, I think even more than that, they were supposed to have a king that they could see, and they've already been told about him.
Mm-hmm.
They're wanting just a king. They don't care that he's got to come from Judah,
Right.
and he's got to be this kind of. He's got to be God's king.
Mm-hmm.
They want a king like the nations around them. So they're gauging what they want by what they see around them instead of what God has already revealed. He's already revealed that there's going to be a king. All the way back in Genesis 17, God is promising to Abraham, kings will come from you.
Uh-huh.
Genesis 49, there's going to be a king, but he comes from Judah.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers 24, even Balaam
Mhm.
sees that there's going to be a king,
Mm-hmm.
but it's God's king.
And Jacob.
Mhm.
Jacob, as he blesses his
It's
sons.
Genesis 49.
Oh, okay, yeah.
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 Yeah. So they were supposed to have a king.
Uh-huh.
It's just supposed to be God's king.
Yep.
And what they're doing is they're throwing off God's rulership.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, be a law-abiding citizen. This should be self-explanatory.
Should be pretty basic.
right. Should be.
Yeah. Should be basic.
We're not talking about anarchy.
Right. Right.
Have you ever met a Christian anarchist?
A long time ago, no, I can't remember his name, but he was kind of like the type of guy who was like, well, we've never tried anarchy. Remember I said that?
Yeah.
And I was like, well,
Let's
I
give
don't
it a
know
shot.
about that. I think maybe we have.
We just need a purge,
Right.
Jay.
Yeah. So, yeah, but no one who's like seriously like, hey, this is what we need.
Mhm.
I don't think you can take seriously looking at condition of the world and say, all right, what we need is no government at all,
Mhm.
because we're able to govern ourselves totally and keep ourselves in check.
Mhm.
It won't happen.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, be a law-abiding citizen. Obviously, the king, he makes law, right?
Mm.
The king's sovereign. He makes law. He executes and upholds the law. So, you are to obey. And
I wanted to ask you about this verse 2.
Uh.
It says, I'm using the LSB here. Keep the command of the king because of the sworn oath before God.
yeah, because of the sworn oath before God. Yeah.
Do you think that might be a reference to the Davidic covenant?
Possibly. Also, if you have, I don't know if it's NIV, Holman, I think Holman makes it your oath to God. So it speaks as if it's like you should obey the king because you made an oath to God.
Mm.
But as I said in the sermon, it literally in Hebrew is just like God's oath or the God oath.
Mm.
So people struggle with the interpretation. Is it who's the oathing here? Who's doing the oathing?
Mm.
I think it's God's oath to the king.
Mm.
So if so, then it can fit with that.
Yeah.
Davidic covenant, God's promise.
So there'd be a specific. I mean, this is the Davidic king
Yeah.
writing to Israel. He's not
Mhm.
just writing this, to circulate among the nations. It's particularly for God's people.
Right.
So, in a specific sense, obey the Davidic king because God has made a promise to him.
Right.
Psalm 2.
Uh-huh.
Right? But then we can kind of expand it in a general sense to
Right.
obey those in authority because they're from God.
Yeah. Because we have the New Testament. So obviously we see here in the Old Testament, the king is instituted by God. And the question might be, well, what about our government or other governments through history? And Paul brings that up in Romans 13. So Romans 13, 1-7, that's obviously the big passage, one of them.
Right.
Peter writes on this as well.
Yeah.
But this is probably the longest section. In Romans 13, 1-7, the same principle is taught. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those have been instituted by God. So, a couple of things, obviously. Every authority comes from God. It does apply to, obviously, governments, but I think it also applies to authority in general. So, where God has established these spheres of authority, that's good, and the closer a government or like the family is another sphere of authority God established. Even in a non-Christian culture, if a government or a family closely aligns with God's design for it, the society will benefit. Okay, so God's design for a family authority, a man, a woman, for life, the leadership of the man as the prime authority, not that a woman doesn't have any authority, but as a family is closely aligned with this, that society will, in general, flourish. So one that I kind of thought of that really has a big emphasis on family, the importance of family, was like the Japanese culture.
Okay.
Now, we obviously had a massive war with them, right? But their society is not known for anarchy and like chaos and crime, right? They have like this honor-based society. It has a lot to do with honoring your family. And so what do you have there? You have, pretty decent society. Well, the further any culture or society gets away from that, you're going to have problems societally. Same thing for a government. So here in Romans 13, 1-7, God kind of tells the purpose of government. Now, the closer that any human government matches this, the better the society will be. The more it deviates, the worse the society will be, because all authority comes from God. He designed it, and it's for human benefit.
So are you seeing Romans 13 as the idealistic government?
Yeah, I think what he reveals is this is God's design. Now, I think there is a case to make that this is God's plan for curbing human evil after the fall. Now, what you don't want to imply then is that government is a post-fall thing, because I don't believe it is. A government exists for coordination, for planning, for executing of plans, for building. It's the type of thing you would need to take dominion of the earth, right? And that's pre-fall. Post-fall, though, it serves a role. It serves a purpose, and part of that purpose is to keep at bay the immense potential that human evil has to absolutely cause chaos and destruction in the world.
Right.
A government will keep that at bay if they're doing what God has designed them to do.
Right.
And that's all here in Romans 13, 1-7.
So Romans 13 was a huge discussion just a few years back because of COVID.
Oh, yeah. I had to cut my COVID stuff out of the sermon.
We
were going to have an hour and a half.
Yeah,
on the sermon.
I'm sure. So the government was instituting these lockdowns,
right?
And then the vaccine, they started mandating vaccines.
Well, not for everyone here in America, but for some, for federal employees and things like that. Yeah.
So what do we do here? Because are we supposed to obey the government? Are we supposed to? Were they violating? Were they outside of their sphere? What you had stuff on
Right.
COVID, so
Yeah.
so what'd you have?
Well, I think one thing you have to remember is if there is an issue of morality and it comes to a violation of the conscience, the human conscience. So what I would like if we're not talking explicit gospel issues and a direct violation of the Word of God, I think there could still be some things the government would ask you to do that your conscience won't allow you to do. Okay, but it might for me, right? So for me, when I joined the Army, and I'm not speaking ill of anybody who didn't take the vaccine as a federal employee, right? When I joined, it was a blank agreement. Like here's my life. I'm gonna put in my body what you tell me to put in it. I'm going to die. If you tell me to go here and die, then I'm going here to die. Here's my life, Jay Jones. I swear allegiance. If you ask me to do something immoral, I mean, obviously in our oaths and in Army regulations, you can disobey if they tell you to like go kill a bunch of kids. Obviously, you don't obey that. But I mean, when you deploy, you're going to get in a line and they're going to stick you with a whole bunch of shots. No clue.
Right.
That's pre-COVID. So for me, like if I just would have probably taken it. For those who couldn't do it, their conscience wouldn't allow them. I don't look down on them or anything. I don't judge them for that. But you do have to know that there's a price to be paid for that, because they gave a legal order. I mean, I didn't examine the flu shots the anthrax. Like you took the anthrax shot over there. Now, the anthrax shot is shown to have caused harm in some people, which is a shame. So, yeah, if your conscience won't allow, and you can't do it, you can't do it. But then the government will do what they do and, kick you out and punish you. So I think they have that. The thing with COVID, I guess we could go there since we're talking about it. So the government's role is to protect society, right? So Romans 13:1-7, it's to punish evil, right? They bear the sword. They don't bear the sword in vain. They're to punish evildoers, lawbreakers, and to reward the good. So they exist for the benefit of preserving society. Now, we're not like famous like John MacArthur, but we actually followed, without looking to see what they were doing. We just did our thing, but we ended up doing the same thing. So at the beginning, it did look like the governments had the best interest of society in mind at the beginning. Like this is going to be it could be, the way they were talking about it's like Armageddon, right? Millions upon millions of dead people. We don't know. So we're saying, okay, well, obviously for us, we're like, well, we don't want our church people dying. You know what I mean? So we'll cancel church. And we didn't do online church because we don't think that's real church. Yeah. Just lost some more subscribers. Online church isn't real church, right?
If that was a shock to people at this point, I don't know what to tell them.
So we just canceled, and that was pretty painful. Really depressing time.
Yeah.
Really depressing. Dark days. Really dark days. And but after a while, we began to see some funny things. We talk as elders, and we're like, how can we go into Lowe's and there are like 400 people in here because nobody had anything to do. Yeah. Like, so everyone's going to Lowe's.
Oh, yeah. The parking lot is packed.
And remodeling their house and whatever. But so we can go to Lowe's, but I mean, we can't come to church.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense at all. So, remember one day I had a conversation with the mayor. Remember this?
Yeah.
He triggered me.
Are we in point number 2?
I got triggered. Now he says he's a believer. I don't have any reason to doubt it. Prior to this conversation, he was, I'd asked maybe would you serve on the COVID task force? And I'm like, maybe so. Maybe I can bring some reason to that. And I didn't hear from him again after the conversation. So he had used these words that something to the effect of maybe in another month we'll allow churches to meet. And I said, come again?
Yeah.
You allow? I said, well, we're not doing what we're doing because you say so. Like, you don't have that authority. I said, you don't even have that authority constitutionally. He said, well, our lawyers say that we do. I said, I don't really care, you know?
Yeah.
But beyond that, you don't have the authority to regulate worship. Like, we're going to meet when we want to, you know? We're not like bad citizens, but you don't have that. You can't tell us what to do. I did it as respectfully as possible, obviously. He was in a bad spot, getting bad advice from obviously bad lawyers. Like, I don't have a reason to doubt that he wasn't actually trying to be a good mayor. Like, he's not part of the global COVID conspiracy.
Right.
But that was experienced nationwide. So we started meeting again. We weren't the government's enforcers. We didn't enforce masks. A lot of people wore them, and that's okay. Some people didn't, but we weren't going to go around and be like, put your mask on.
Yeah.
You know, or leave. So, again, like you said, we're going to be jumping around. But that's because I think, you know, in this, you have a clear place where the government's they've gotten outside of their sphere. Like, God has established them with this sphere, and they begin to intrude on a different one that they don't have a right to.
Yeah.
So Christians through history, whenever the governments have done that, they don't obey. So they'll obey pretty much any law. It could be the stupidest law. It could be the dumb laws. They could make a law that said, you know, where you have to wear a seatbelt or we'll give you a ticket. Sorry. I couldn't resist. I could not resist. Did you know there's a lot of people that are hardcore no seatbelters?
Oh, really?
And not even for the safety reason, because they say it's unconstitutional. I'm opening your mind to a whole world of libertarianism. You didn't know this?
That there's like hardcore anti-seatbelters?
Oh, yeah.
No.
It's a matter of the Constitution. But now, whether it is or it isn't, you know, I'm going to wear my seatbelt. Number one, it's safe. It keeps you safe.
Yeah.
And number two, I don't want a ticket.
Yeah.
The government can fine you for it, and I don't want to fine.
Right.
And I'm not going to be stupid and violate laws and go to battle with the government over things that don't matter. So obey. The government can make, like, another stupid law. You can't drink till you're 21, but you can go into the army and die on foreign soil when you're 18.
Yeah.
Dumbest law ever. The government can make really dumb laws. I have a son, he's 18. Guess what I tell him? You obey the law. Just because it's a stupid law, you know, and you could sign up and in 6 months find yourself in who knows where, doesn't mean you can say, well, you know what? I think I'll just drink.
Let me push a little bit more.
Okay.
All right. Because I know that I cannot remember. It may have been Jonathan Lehman from 9 Marks.
Right.
He said some pretty stupid things during the whole COVID thing.
Well, he said a lot of dumb things.
Yeah.
Even before COVID about abortion.
Yeah. I think he said this.
Okay.
If it wasn't him, my apologies.
Okay. All right.
Because I know that he listens to us. He said something along the lines of, if the government told me to, I had to wear ribbons in my hair. The government has the authority to do that.
Yeah.
And I should obey that.
Well, I would say if you lived in China, the answer would be yes.
Okay.
Put the ribbons in your hair. You don't want to get disappeared.
Okay.
Obviously, I think under the Constitution, this is the tension. The Constitution is the king. The king of America is the Constitution.
Right.
Okay? These government officials, we can vote them in and out. They can be removed. And they can make stupid laws that violate the Constitution that then you can disobey and be challenged in court and have overthrown. That's part of your duty as well in obeying the king. See how complicated it gets in America? It gets very complicated. Now, there are some laws, like you said. Do you want to go to battle with the government over wearing a seatbelt? Right?
Right.
No, you don't. Is the government forcing you to put ribbons in your hair in obvious, blatant violation of the Constitution? Yes, it could be challenged so easily. So it's not a good example in America. It is in China.
Where would you draw the line? Like they have spheres of authority,
Right.
right?
Well,
Where do you draw the line on I'm not going to do this? You may make a law, and it may be quote unquote legal for you to do this,
right.
but I'm not going to do it because it violates my conscience, or I see this as a blatant disregard for the value of individuals made in the image of God.
Yeah. Well, let's take, for instance, let's say we live in like, where do they have strict Sharia? Saudi Arabia?
Okay. Iran, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Like I'm talking full on cover the face. Like
Yeah.
okay, so let's say that you live there and you're a Christian.
Uh-huh.
Would it violate my conscience to have to cover my wife up like that? I think it's it's robbing her of her dignity as an image bearer of God, covering up the image of God in a woman. I think it harms my conscience to do such a thing. Am I going to tell her to do it? Yeah. Right? Because if you're there as a Christian, what's your mission? What is your mission? Well, your mission is ultimately to be a witness and to advance the gospel in a society. And you can't do that if you're dead. Right? Yeah. So better to be shrewd. We're going to get to a lesson on shrewdness a little bit later here in Ecclesiastes. See, Americans, we're not real shrewd. But if you view your primary mission in all of life is to be a Christian, to spread the gospel, to advance that kingdom, and let's say you're up against a kingdom like Saudi Arabia. Well, even if it harms your sensibilities, is it immoral to have your wife cover herself up? No. I think it's wrong and demeaning. But I want her to stay alive, and I want to stay alive too because I would want to be able to continue to live and to share the gospel with people in that society. Now, obviously, missionaries have done that on purpose, and they probably all wear that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They probably all don't eat pork. They have to abide by all of these laws that are part of Sharia that they can abide by without breaking God's law. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
It's just tricky here in America.
Right.
And part of the trickiness comes down to we think we have these rights that are on par with what a king may do. But this kind of brings a balance to that because in God's strange providence, he has instituted these authorities in other places. And what they put in place is there, and you're warned if you go against it, then you're going to face the consequences of it. It doesn't mean you can't, but you got to pick your battles, and then this kind of gets back into. I mean, it's bleeding into some of the other stuff, but
right, yeah. Don't be a hurry to go from his presence.
Right.
Don't be quick to criticize.
Yeah,
the king.
It's like the king issue makes an order. That's part number 2. Be not quick to show public disapproval. The king makes an order publicly. He can make whatever he wants. He can be like, you know what, guys, on Tuesday, what we're going to do is we're taking Tuesday morning off, and I know it's going to cut into your business. Tuesday morning is celebrate my father David Day, you know, and festivities all around, and I'm not paying for it. And you're going to be like, you're going to make a dumb face and walk out, turn your back on the king. Not smart. Not smart, right?
Yeah. Is that the same? Again, I'm using the LSB. I don't have my ESV with me. The LSB says, "Do not stand in an evil matter, for he will do whatever he pleases." Is that the same?
I take that as a little stronger.
Okay.
More like working directly to oppose him.
Okay.
I take the first as like you're annoyed.
Okay.
Okay, so just eat it. Don't change your face and walk out on him.
Yeah.
Don't show a public disapproval of him for something that's not important.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
Or maybe even some things that are important but could get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Got to pick your battles.
Okay. let me. Did you hear that? Did you hear my stomach?
Dude, I
That
think
was like a,
your stomach growl came through the
Yeah,
microphone.
maybe.
Did you guys hear that? Did you hear it?
Okay.
Wow. Impressive.
All right. Let's talk about this phrase that we hear quite often. Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God.
Oh, I thought you were going to say taxation is theft.
Well, we could talk about that too. I mean,
Yeah.
but this is a John Knox quote.
John Knox, yeah.
Is
Is it John
this,
Knox or is it someone else?
I'm pretty sure it's John Knox.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's
Curiosity
John
gets
Knox.
me, George. I can't resist.
Yeah. But you can see T-shirts and all kinds of
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of stuff. Resistance.
Well, an American will never waste an opportunity to make money. You know what I'm saying? So it is a catchy T-shirt.
Uh huh.
So kudos to whoever made it and made some money off it.
Yeah. But we need to talk about it because, especially in the Reformed world, we see it a lot. Did you find it?
I'm looking it up. I keep hearing your stomach over
I
here.
know. It won't stop.
Impressive.
You need to start bringing in some of that sushi.
Let's see. I can't find it right now.
Can't find it.
No.
Well, tell me what you think about that from Ecclesiastes, and I'll see if I can find it while you enlighten us.
I think that it doesn't really. It only applies, like I said, in certain situations. You know, the ones that are often used are.
It's John Knox.
It is.
I found it immediately.
I found it. I found that another person had.
Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God.
Yeah, I thought it was him too, but I found that someone else had quoted it as not him, and it was like another Puritan. So
I see that it was a suggested motto for the seal of the United States.
it actually was, yeah.
Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God.
Mm-hmm. The one that's often quoted, and I think rightly, is the Israelite, the midwives. You know, Pharaoh, he issues his decree to put all the Hebrew male children to death, and they resist. They hide them.
It's misattributed to John Knox.
It is? Okay.
That's what I'm
Misattributed.
Misattributed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It was originally quoted by Benjamin Franklin.
I'm seeing that.
Well, I don't know originally, but I know he did. He's the one who proposed that motto, I think.
Okay.
Probably was John Knox. I can see that it fits him as he opposed the Queen.
Right.
And she obviously was a tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
The whole burning people alive thing. That thing.
Yeah,
But you're not laughing at my jokes.
I'm sorry.
Should I make jokes?
Sorry, I'm trying to.
I probably shouldn't make jokes about that.
I'm trying to find this, and
Insensitive to their.
it seems like it is misattributed to him. Yeah. Which I think that kind of changes the way that we should view it. I mean, it seems like we attribute it to John Knox to give it some weight.
Right.
But it could have been from Benjamin Franklin, who was not a Christian.
Right.
So that should at least give us pause.
I would say this: sometimes resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. Sometimes resistance to tyranny is just sin.
Right.
Sometimes, or a tyrant. I'll say a tyrant, because tyranny. You have to define terms. You can define tyranny such that it's disobedience to God, in which case, disobedience to tyranny would always be obedience to God. But sometimes tyrants are just tyrants.
Yeah. So let's put some kind of specifics.
Okay.
Let's talk about specific situations, because I know that you didn't have the time to give all the specifics that you could have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we can let's look at Nero first.
Okay.
Because that's who the emperor is when Paul and Peter write Romans and First Peter, where they're both telling
Yeah.
you to obey.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got Nero.
He's a tyrant.
He hasn't started targeting Christians
Right.
particularly yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
But he always was crazy. He always was a bad king.
Yeah, he's a little serial killer-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a freak show, man. Dare we tell people what he did?
I mean, you can if you want to.
Shall they know?
You can look this stuff up in Tacitus. His history.
You're gonna have to call for the earmuffs because sometimes the kids are listening with their parents. You know what I mean?
You can look this up in Tacitus and Suetonius. These were Roman historians, and they detail Nero.
I think the weirdest thing he did. Well, I mean, he obviously would impale Christians and light them on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not great.
Right.
But it said that one time he put animal skins on himself and attacked a man and ate his
yes,
unmentionables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's next level. Silence of the Lambs level.
What pushed his pregnant wife down the stairs? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tried to kill his own mother.
Yeah. So.
Burned the whole city down. Blamed it on Christians.
Right. He had his servant castrated, and then he married him. All kinds of. I mean, he was debased to the 10th degree.
He'd fit in really well with the World Economic Forum today. So, yeah, he probably would be the CEO of like Balenciaga.
What?
That level.
Frequent guest to Epstein's Island.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. All right. So anyway, this is the emperor that Peter is now. This is before he starts persecuting the Christians.
Right.
But he still is bad. He's still a bad king. This is the emperor that Peter writes in First Peter. Chapter 2, honor the emperor.
Yeah, because people were selling not my Nero not my Caesar T-shirts. So he's like, nah, can't be doing that, Christians. You got to honor the emperor. Yeah, not our president.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I never really got it. Like, as much as you don't like the president, like he's yours,
right?
Like he's the one you got,
right?
And it just seems a weird thing especially for Christians to say.
Yeah. So you've got this tyrant that they're still supposed to honor and obey until he starts saying things like offer a pinch of incense to the statue and say Caesar is Lord.
Right.
That's when the Christians they rebel.
Yeah, they'll rebel. They disobey. Obviously, can't do that, and we forget like how much of a regular occurrence it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, pretend you're just like laying some bricks. You're just a mason out there slaving away, trying to just earn a little money that's going to be heavily taxed by the Romans.
Right.
And here they come. Here comes some soldiers carrying Nero's little emblem, little bust, and they say, "Take a pinch, make an offering. Caesar is Lord." And, everybody else does it, so they can get back to work. And then you're like, Jesus is Lord.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen?
What did you say?
Say it again. Yeah. And then whack.
Yeah.
There you go. They just get stabbed and thrown in the gutter.
Mm-hmm.
Move along. They just throw you down it wouldn't even be a big deal. Just slain. But that's
one tyrant. That's one example, right?
So disobeying him in that sense would be obedience to God.
Right.
Not paying your taxes to him would be disobedience to God.
Yeah. Let's make it a little more difficult for you, Jay.
Okay. All right. Throw it all at me. Throw me the curveballs, the change-ups.
Hitler.
All right.
Now, Dietrich Bonhoeffer couldn't have been a member of our church, right?
Yeah.
He was a liberal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we can debate that. But he was a pastor.
Right.
Right? He was a pastor, theologian. He was part of a plot to assassinate Hitler.
Okay.
He actually was hanged for it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it wrong? Was it wrong for him to resist Hitler? I mean, Hitler is the king,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you also know that he's going to destroy the nation.
Right.
Like your nation is going to be destroyed if Hitler keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew about the concentration camps.
Right.
Like he is doing atrocious things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you side with the people who are trying to assassinate him?
So this is where things can become complicated, obviously.
Mhm.
And it can play into why did the colonies rebel?
Mm. Yeah.
As I said, that's a complicated situation as well.
Right.
If I would not resist a tyrant if I were being persecuted for a Christian faith, okay?
Mhm.
I don't think you take up arms. You only have nonviolent resistance. That's it. I'm not sure that is the case always for the Christian.
Okay.
For instance, I see that it could be immoral for me as a Christian to not take up arms to protect an innocent person. I would see that as another act of immorality, the failure to love my neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's pretend I'm going out here to the car. There's a bus drop off here, so people walk through our parking lot all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say I go outside and there's a man just beating his wife about to curb stomp her.
Mm-hmm.
Would I be moral to not resist that?
Right.
If I just got in the car and didn't intervene?
Mm-hmm.
Or would it be moral if I were to take my gun out and shoot him and kill him?
Mm-hmm.
Save her life.
Right.
So where I land is on that, I would be immoral if I didn't take action, and I could.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh that. Can I take action to save and preserve life? Life is complicated in that way. If you have the ability and it's needed to preserve life immediately, and you can make the case, I think, that Hitler was an emergency.
Yeah.
Not only was he killing a lot of people, innocent people, he's going to bring about the destruction of the whole nation,
Mm-hmm.
which he did.
Yeah.
Like they got
Right.
what they had coming. Very bad. But it didn't happen. He didn't do it. So I'm not going to be able to say that what he did was wrong. I think that probably the way that he justified it was likely in those terms.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't act and I'm in the position to act,
Right.
then I could be doing being immoral
Mm-hmm.
and not loving my neighbor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense in that way that I phrase it that way?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I think
It does. It opens up another question.
yeah, I mean, this was, when you come, at the very end, I brought this up because
I've got questions just firing off in my brain right now, Jay.
I brought up.
I really want to hear your. I really want to hear.
You can hear
your,
my
your
rationale?
I want to hear your opinion on things.
So John MacArthur has said that the colonies
Mm-hmm.
rebelled. It was unjustified. They violated Romans 13. I had a Baptist history professor. He was from the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and he used to love to say the same thing
Yeah.
to us. He'd call us rebellious colonists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was all in good fun,
Yeah.
because I'd always remind him that we have better teeth. So rebellion leads to good teeth, apparently.
Not if American healthcare keeps going the way that's going, Jay.
Right. Yeah. So, John MacArthur, though, he agrees.
Mm-hmm.
This is his quote, a quote from him. People have mistakenly linked democracy and political freedom to Christianity. Now, I can agree with that. He says a lot of true things in this, what he says. That's why many contemporary evangelicals believe the American Revolution was completely justified, both politically and scripturally. They follow the arguments of the Declaration of Independence, which declares that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are divinely endowed rights. But such a position is contrary to the clear teachings and commands of Romans 13, 1-7. So the United States was actually born out of a violation of New Testament principles, and any blessings God has bestowed on America has come in spite of that disobedience by the Founding Fathers. Now, that might offend them as Americans, but every blessing that we get comes in spite of our disobedience anyway. So that's what grace is.
Right.
I think God's been very gracious to America through history. So whether we started in rebellion or not doesn't change the fact that God has really blessed us because he chose to.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could be in spite of our disobedience, or as I read, things aren't that clear cut. They're not that black and white.
Right.
Because pastors were arguing these issues
Oh, yeah.
theologically, scripturally.
Oh yeah, I mean this was they blamed the English blamed it on the Presbyterians, right?
Yeah.
It was the
It was very intense.
It was the black robed regiment.
Yeah.
Right?
You had of course, the Anglicans were on one side
Uh-huh.
because they believe that the king has divine right.
Right.
He's even the head of the church. The Presbyterians don't believe that.
Right.
They're arguing a different side, and Congregationalists and some Baptists are with them. And their arguments won out. And they were arguing more from a kind of a just war theory type of an argument,
Uh-huh.
that they're taking a defensive posture
Right.
to defend their families.
That England actually
Yes.
was the instigator.
That they were, yes.
Yeah.
So that's the argument,
Right.
is that they are defending themselves,
Mhm.
and that it would be immoral to not defend themselves.
Right.
They also had, I read some things, they always tried to never fire the first shot. And apparently in history, if you go back and see, they didn't.
Mhm.
So, complicated, very complicated.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
But you had some questions, some more that came to your mind.
Well, I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole did we want to go, Jay. I mean, I've got. I mean, this question. You know, you're talking about assassinating Hitler. And
Are you trying to ask me if I had a time machine, would I kill baby Hitler? Because I can't go there. I can't go there, George.
That's not my question.
All right.
That's not my question. Because you're talking about taking up arms against someone that is destroying human life,
Right.
even if it's a government official.
Uh-huh.
Right. Well, I can't help but think about abortion.
Right.
In America,
Mm-hmm.
which more babies have been killed
Mm-hmm.
than the Holocaust times.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you've got government endorsing it.
Yeah. You have, and this would be the case where you have to weigh the likelihood of the outcome.
Mhm.
I think so. Be discerning. This would fall into point 4.
Okay.
China aborts a lot of babies.
Yeah.
Probably more than we do.
Mm.
I don't think the Christians over there are contemplating this issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the likelihood of a positive outcome is 0%.
Yeah.
Okay. They're just going to get gunned down and die.
Mm.
So, what is the likelihood of us defending the innocent and being successful here in America in that endeavor? Probably 0%, as well. Now, many people probably think, oh, that's not the case, but it is, right? So, and it's more complicated, I think, than the issue there with in Germany. Like, you had a actual target of armed people. In order to do that in America, you would probably be attacking unarmed people.
Mm.
I don't think we can do that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I don't think we can ever go after people who aren't engaged in a war.
Yeah.
Though it
Okay.
is technically, I guess, a Holocaust on the unborn.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we can take up arms like that.
Mhm.
Now, there are other means.
Right.
And God has blessed some of those.
Mhm.
As Roe v. Wade was overturned. Now, is that a temporary win because God's giving us over to further judgment? That's yet to be seen. I tend to think that's how God's working in America right now.
Mm.
That he's going to show Christians how foolish it was to put hope in government and to trust government as we have done.
Yeah.
So temporary win, right? But the counter from the other side will be so strong and swing back so violently against it that what was pre-Roe is going to look like, child's play compared to what's coming. So if they actually make a law, a federal law protecting it all the way up to birth, and which has never been done, then it's the law of the land, which it never has been. And the result could be even worse than Roe.
Mm.
And so we say, well, why would God do that? Well, because he's turned us over to judgment. Like, people thought Trump was Cyrus. Like, they were saying all kinds of crazy nonsense. Like, okay, Trump gave you a temporary reprieve from not having dudes in women's bathrooms.
Yeah.
Right? Big time win for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
He held off. But what has been the response to him?
Right.
Well, it's pushing even harder and harder into secular humanism than it was before him.
Yeah.
So I think that may be what's happening. Though I think we can thank God for the temporary reprieve of the atrocities of Roe v. Wade. I mean, we live in a state where now it's pretty much outlawed in every capacity except for the morning after pill, which I think is the place that, Christians need to be asking their government here in America, outlaw that. You shouldn't be able to drive over here to CVS or Walgreens and buy an abortion in a little box. Shouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
So we have a lot of mechanisms at our disposal. That'd be the other thing. If we're thinking what you brought up versus the Hitler thing, we have all of these peaceful means. What did Bonhoeffer and those guys have? They had no peaceful means.
Right.
There is no possible peaceful means that they have to accomplish that. They only had one. We have a whole variety of peaceful means left to our disposal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we pursue the nonviolent always, all the way to the very end.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this, again, we're jumping around a little bit. Don't be quick to show public disapproval.
Right.
And in that point, you talked about how focusing on, I think this is exactly what you said, focusing on politics can suck the life out of you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think we see a lot of Christians that do just kind of get pulled into politics. I mean, for so long, I think since we've been alive, Republican has equaled Christian in a lot of people's minds. And I think that's still the case for a lot of Christians.
Right.
Is they get sucked into politics and that's their focus. So whenever they start talking about morality, they just naturally start talking about politicians and government and things like that.
Right.
How do we avoid that? Like, where's the balance? Because we don't, and you talk about it a lot that we can talk about these issues, and we are citizens. We should be good citizens. So we shouldn't step back and say, I'm not going to have anything to do with politics or anything to do with our government. We should vote from a biblical worldview. We should speak up against things like abortion. You talked about the whole transgender push and the celebration of homosexuality, and there are issues that are, I guess, quote unquote, political issues that we should speak about. But how do we avoid just making everything about politics? How do we avoid the Robert Jeffress kind of position?
Yeah, I mean, so you want to if you're not going to be quick to show disapproval, you're doing that because you want the ability to, when you do, for it to be over something that really matters and makes an impression. But if you're out here just bad mouthing, the president, Nancy Pelosi and, or you're bad-mouthing Trump all the time, whatever, or the weakness and limp-wristedness of Republicans, and you're talking about taxes, and you're talking about the student bailout and how they bailed out students, and how that, you paid off all your student debt, and now, you're going to end up paying for taxes for that stuff, and, well, all right, number one, that's just going to make you unhappy, which is not wise. We're talking about applying wisdom to the real world. Well,
yeah, I mean the whole introduction to this section is that wisdom causes the man's face to shine, right?
Yeah. I used to watch the news every day when I got home from work. And it may come as a shocker to the liberals because I'm a conservative, but I like to take in a broad spectrum of information. Like I like to get it all in the brain and throw it around.
Okay.
And it used to just make me super grumpy. And it was just unhealthy, but I couldn't stop. I just couldn't resist, just could not resist.
Yeah.
Eventually I just stopped doing it because I realized it's just making me unhappy. This is back in the Army days.
Yeah.
It's just not smart to do that. Like, so if you're a believer, you've got to disengage from a lot of this stuff. Now, there's some stuff you just cannot disengage.
Jerry, hear the words of wisdom. This applies to Twitter.
Yeah. You got to be careful. You discovered you could talk directly to the president, huh? Yeah. It's tempting. I'll tell you that. When has a can I call you a peasant? When else in history, George, has a peasant been able to talk to the king like that?
Right.
Hey, and what's so crazy about this? I have no doubt that Joe Biden is not on Twitter, like I said, because I think he's
no way
he's not there. But the last president could not resist Twitter.
He couldn't resist it.
So, Dad, you could have got on there, and you probably could have had a Twitter fight with the president of the United States.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
Trump's back on Twitter. You could. There's the person for you to interact with.
I want you to pick a fight with President Trump. You pick a fight with President Trump, and
we'll show it on here.
I'll take you to dinner, and I'll put it on Free for All Friday. Here's what I want you to do: go blow him up for saying he needs to abolish the Constitution. Yeah, go blow him up.
Yeah,
I dare you to call him a coward. Say, hey, Trump, you are a macho man. You just throw your weight around. But then be like, you know what? You had all these wars going on. Vietnam, 2 in Iraq. Where were you at? You don't know anything about the Constitution and loyalty. Coward. He will not resist. He will not be able to resist that. He'll come at you like an orange hurricane. And then I'll show it on Twitter. I'll show it on Free for All Friday.
We got to get your dad mic'd up.
I know.
Hey,
where is that microphone? It's right.
There's one right there.
There's one right there. Look, number 3. Dad, pull it over there.
I don't have anything to say right now. You've already gone like
it's right there.
Yeah. We should. Oh goodness.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, say something. Say something in that mic. You there?
I'm here, but
he's there.
Hey, that's nice.
Okay, when you're ready.
Nice.
When you're ready, I'll turn it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are things that are so important that we need to expend if we have any amount of is capital the right word, or reputation, we need to be able to spend it on these issues that I think are super important, right? Defending the family and marriage.
Yeah.
The issues related to the LGBTQ movement and now the transgender movement. These are things you can argue from that aren't even political in nature. That's my argument here. Why can you argue against the government on these things? Because these are matters of humanity. These are issues of civilization, humanity, and the establishment that God has put in place in the created order.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. I want to I want to challenge the use of that language of spending capital.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Just because the world hates us
Mm-hmm.
because they hate Christ.
Right.
So the idea that we're gathering capital and we can spend it and they're going to actually listen to us on these big important issues, I don't think that's the case. But
That's not exactly what I mean though by that. What I mean by this is if you are just hitting on every little thing, right, all the time,
yeah,
then what you end up becoming is like a chihuahua.
yeah,
right?
that's what I was. Yeah.
Well, what
so
you
I think,
want.
So I think we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
Just the phrasing was a little different.
What
I
you-
I
yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're.
You-
If you are complaining about everything, I tell my kids this because Phineas will get like a little cut on his hand, and he will lose his mind. And I tell him, Phineas, you cannot do that.
You thought he'd amputated himself?
Yeah, because when you actually hurt yourself, we're not going to take it seriously because you freak
Very
out
good.
over everything. You you can't freak out over everything.
Now you got
because
yeah.
when the important stuff comes up, we're not going to take it seriously. And it's the same thing. If Christians are always complaining about everything in the government, like seatbelts,
right,
people they're not going to hear us
or taxes.
when we are
yeah.
actually calling out the big things,
Mm-hmm.
the really important things.
Right.
They're not going to hear us
Yeah.
because, well, we're just always complaining. We're just complaining about everything. We have to hit the right things, the important things.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So you can pick, it's perfect. That's exactly what I was driving for.
Yeah.
You do that, you're just like, Chihuahua barks at everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when a lion roars, that's what you want. Its impact, like the force.
Right.
Okay. This person has spoken profoundly on something that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that.
Yeah. I wanted to hit one other topic.
Okay.
You didn't mention this. I don't even think that maybe it would come out of looking at this passage, but we're talking about government.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta talk about it.
Okay.
Theonomy.
All right.
We got to talk about theonomy.
Okay.
All right. So this is the idea that we as Christians are supposed to work towards the Christianization of the world. This usually goes hand in hand with postmillennialism. I don't know if you necessarily have to be one to be the other, but most of the theonomists that I've
Right.
listened to have been postmill.
Yeah.
Right.
Most. Yeah.
So the idea is that the world is eventually going to be Christianized. The governments are going to be Christianized, and Christian laws found in the law in the Old Testament will be they'll be applied.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just talk about it a little bit. We don't have to go into a full-fledged discussion about theonomy, but we've got this idea that we're supposed to be law-abiding citizens. We're not supposed to be quick to criticize. We need to be aware of the dangers of openly opposing
Right.
the king, the government. We need to be discerning about when. And then you've got theonomists.
Right.
And I would say that a lot of the things that we've been saying over the last hour and a half, they'd probably disagree.
Right.
So what do we how do we come at this? I mean, obviously neither one of us are post-millennial.
Right.
I think that every Christian is going to. I think theonomy is kind of on a scale.
Mm-hmm.
There's a spectrum.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And I think every Christian is
Falls-
on the scale.
Falls on it somewhere. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone at our community group. We were talking about it a little bit.
Uh-huh.
If we were just dropped onto a desert island and we were tasked with
establishing
forming
laws.
a government,
Right.
and establishing laws, would probably start with the Ten Commandments.
Right. Yep.
So that would be, in a sense, theonomist, right?
Yeah.
But what about this idea of we need to establish these Christian laws and Christianize the government, and the government should be establishing these biblical laws?
Okay. Well, so first off, I would say we'll do a couple of things. Number one, it might come as a shocker, but I would believe in theonomy in this particular instance. As you know, I am a historic premillennialist, so I believe that Christ will reign on earth, and I believe that his reign will be perfect, a perfect government. It'll be ruled by God's standards, the laws, the general equity of the laws will be applied across nations, I believe. Okay, now that's great. The world will prosper like it never has ever, I believe. Well, obviously, you don't agree with that, all right? You're amillennials. We'll talk about that as we get into our stuff. But I would say that. And so if anyone would say that theonomy would be bad, I would say, well, why? God's law is good, right? The problem is in application. Human theonomy will never work, and it has been tried. People say, well, it's never been tried. Yes, it has. Go back and look at England. So I would just say that to my Presbyterian brothers. You going to tie me up when the tide comes in and drown me? Because that's what they used to do. Hey, let's rebaptize this Baptist.
Throw you in a sack.
Let's rebaptize him with the tide, you know? And even before that, you have a form of theonomy under the in Anglicanism, the king. And Presbyterians were persecuted, right? Congregationalists burned to death. So theonomy under sinful humans can be bad. You see what I'm saying? Theonomy under Christ will be perfect. Now, there are degrees, though. As we said, we're going to argue for laws as Christians, and hopefully Presbyterians and Baptists and Congregationalists and even Anglicans could all be on the same page here on 9% of things, advocating for laws that we think are just. And we think God's laws are more just than human laws, obviously. Like the law against murder is God's law. We're advocating for that. So how many do you advocate for, right? And I think we should try to advocate for as many as we can. There are all kinds of things people will bring up. You get into a whole host of issues related to Bible interpretation and things like that, and continuity between Old Testament and New Testament, which we can't get into. But the general equity of the Old Testament laws, I can acknowledge openly, and I think it's accurate, that God never in the Bible imposed his law that he had for Israel on Gentile nations, because that's an argument that I've seen, and I would agree. But the question is God's law better than any pagan laws? And the answer is yes.
Right.
The first time I ever read the Old Testament straight through, I was profoundly amazed at how good it was. I remember I literally told Angie, I was like, can you imagine that if this was actually put in society, how good society would be? It'd be amazing. Fairness, justice. It'd be incredible. But I mean, as we've seen, even in Israel, they weren't very good at keeping God's law. But as Christians, as regenerate people, maybe we could do better. So I agree. I mean, if you drop us on an island, and I think this is in some respects what the beginning of our nation was. Now, of course, some of the founding fathers were deists, but most of them were Christians, and they knew what they were doing. This is why when you go into Congress, guess who's on the back of the wall? Like these people are making law in there. Guess who's on the back? Yeah. It's Moses holding up the tablets. So whenever they write law, who's above them? Moses. Yeah. That's because they were Christians. And so, yeah, I would think on this spectrum, I think to that degree, I would be in favor of trying to get as many of God's laws in place as we could. I mean, there are a lot of them that are good ones. I mean, how many times? Here's just a basic one. Put a fence around the top of your house. That's in God's law. No, people have talked about this before. Okay, well, do we have fences on the top of our house?
No.
We don't have flat roofs.
Right.
And the law is put in place to guard, so you would love your neighbor. You don't want your neighbor to fall off. You know, like you don't want them to pull a Eutychus and fall into their death.
Yeah.
He fell out the window, but pretend he's on the top. But people have swimming pools, and you've heard this, you know. And kids, you hear about it all the time. Some neighbor comes in, someone's backyard, falls into their neighbor's pool and drowns to death. Well, we could apply that same principle that every pool should have a fence around it that a child can't climb over. That's good. We don't have those laws, though. You know, that's a good thing. One that we could do in Oklahoma would be if you have a trampoline, it has to be secured so that it cannot be blown into your neighbor's house. You could apply the same general principle almost in that respect.
Yeah.
Because you know my neighbors did that, and if we'd have been outside, it would have killed us. Like it messed my car up bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but if you were there, you'd be dead. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. What do they do in China? Like again, this comes down to being shrewd, knowing what battles to take and when. What to stand for, and what's likely to be the outcome. So in China, you don't have Early Rain Covenant Church, who I read from several times. You don't see them working against their government. In fact, they plainly say, our goal is not to overthrow the party. We do not work against the party in the respect of the political sphere.
Yeah.
We do work against them insofar as we are serving Jesus Christ and we are expanding his gospel into the world, and we will disobey you. Like they'll say that openly, but they do make it clear. Like they're not advocating for theonomy.
Yeah.
How could they? They're not even in a position to even begin to think about that. They're trying to survive.
Yeah, this is this again, maybe coming back to the beginning, is that this is a unique topic for America.
Right.
And I think that if we can't apply the scriptures to all Christians everywhere,
Right.
then it's probably our interpretation or application is wrong.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I agree with that 100%. You know, one of the things that has troubled me about the abolition movement in America is how uncharitable it would be and sound to those who would live in China, who you know, for a time would have forced abortions. I think they might have stopped that because they saw they've undermined their entire population. Like it's on the brink of like instability and collapse.
Right.
So they don't have enough people. But all of the abortion there in China, like some of the things American abolitionists would say, it would make me cringe if a Chinese Christian were to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be hurtful and harmful. There's no way they could ever even meet the standard of an American abolitionist as to what obedience as a Christian looks like in that sphere. You can't apply that cross-culturally, so maybe it's not the correct position. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the standard for what an obedient Christian actually looks like. So, but I do think there is something to be said of having the ability and the freedom that we have, and maybe just not caring and being lazy.
Right.
Which does, I think,
Right.
maybe apply to a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, if God's given you the freedom and the resources, the ability to do things like work, as many abolitionists do, maybe you should do that. Maybe he's called you to that. So, yeah. I don't know if that satisfies the type of answers you were looking for or not, George.
Sounds good. I mean, we could talk about this for hours.
Right. Yeah.
But hopefully this has given some people things to think about.
Right.
I guess one last question, sparked by a text we just got from Parker. When are we going to put the American flag back out on the stage, Jay?
Yeah. I saw a church planter recently. It might have been last week. They put, if you want to see what churches worship, see how they respond when you change things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So the whole American flag thing. Yeah.
We've definitely made politics an idol.
Yeah.
But I think, and you mentioned it, I think looking at how the early church dealt with the government, I think is a good test for us. I think that they're the example for us. What did the early church do when they were living in the Roman Empire? They had a wicked king. They had some wicked laws. They were taxed into oblivion.
And their taxes went to wicked things,
Mm-hmm.
like pagan worship.
Right.
Yeah.
How did they respond?
Right.
They responded by preaching the gospel.
And being good citizens.
And being good citizens.
And as you brought out before in one of your sermons on Hebrews, I believe, or it might have been Peter actually, the early church apologists were arguing from this, like, we're the best citizens.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Uh-huh.
We're the best citizens you have.
Yeah.
Why would you persecute us?
Right.
So yeah, be a good citizen, be a law-abiding citizen. Paul's not out here, writing, his grand masterpiece on the tyranny of the Roman Caesars.
Right.
That's not what Paul's known for, though he could have.
Oh yeah,
For sure. He had the intellect and the ability and the knowledge, the first-hand knowledge to do it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
He's not goading Caesar to behead him
Mm-hmm.
by, blasting him out here publicly, making speeches in the Agora against Nero,
Yeah.
He's out there just, he's preaching the gospel, and now he is, that doesn't, you say he's just preaching the gospel. The preaching of the gospel was with such force and power that it was a threat.
Mm-hmm.
It became a threat.
Right.
And then they came at him.
Mm-hmm. But we need to stop putting all of our hope in the government and politics, and if we can get the right people in and they can make the right laws, then America is going to be saved.
Right.
Right. Alistair Begg, he just preached a sermon, I think a couple of weeks ago. God gave them up. And
From Romans?
yeah. But this was a really good quote. He said, "You will be fascinated to see the coming together of America's two political parties, not on the basis of affiliation, but on the basis of their commitment to sexual immorality."
Yeah, mic drop.
Right.
Yeah. Can't agree on a single thing but that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's true.
So.
It's very true. Yeah. We we didn't even get into the transgender stuff, but
Oh, I know.
I don't have time. You can go listen to that sermon. But I was shocked when I tried to run those stats.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see, George, how many are actually killing themselves. Because that's how it's being pushed. We have to do this because so many people are dying.
Right.
And what I discovered is that's a total lie.
Mm.
It's a total lie.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't mean they're not, but as I said, in general, 16 youth a day. That's all youth, right? So including all of the heterosexual youth in there too.
Oh, yeah.
That's all of them.
Mm.
22 vets a day. We don't change language.
Right.
We're not changing language, society, culture, making laws, canceling people, making them, destroying their reputation, going after their ability to earn money, to make money, destroying their businesses because they're not advocating for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
22 a day.
Yeah.
So since 2001.
Yeah.
So you can clearly see there's something driving this that's
It's
not
not-
about human life.
Yeah, it's not compassion for human life.
Right. Yep. So, all right, you gonna shut us down, or are we gonna go? We'll just talk.
I mean,
if
if you have anything else, I mean, we just kind of jumped all over the place today. Didn't really follow a strict outline.
Yeah. I mean, people want to go through like that. They can listen to the sermon.
Yeah, listen to the sermon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you ended the sermon.
Okay.
That government is eternal. There will be an eternal government
Right.
with Christ as the center. He'll be the head of the government. He'll be the king.
Yeah.
And he's a king right now. He's
Right.
he's ruling right now. And so if you're not following Christ, then you are in opposition to the king.
You're not a law-abiding citizen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Psalm 2. God has established his king on Mount Zion, and the word to everyone, including earthly kings, is be wise. Be wise. Kiss the son, lest he be angry. So that would probably be the way for us to shut it down, is
right.
to just encourage and urge people, if you've never trusted in Christ, do it today. Today, while there's still time, while it's still called today, repent, turn away from your sins, trust in the King, King Jesus. So, that was a nice little pre
Pushed it twice.
exit. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully this conversation has been beneficial, as Jay and I have been talking about Christians and their relationship to the government. Go back, listen to Jay's sermon. Go back to Ecclesiastes, see the wisdom that Solomon has laid out for believers. And if it has been helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, share. Big thanks to Jay's dad, Jerry, over here. Thanks for helping us out today. And as always, we hope that this helps you to become more and more conformed to Christ. We will see you next time.